Gotta get my Okay. Maybe that's not gonna work. All right, sorry about that. Can y'all hear me? All right. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, very good. Sorry about that. I was trying to hook it up to where I could have my iPad hooked up to my computer, and it just did not like the feedback on that. So we will have to, I'm gonna have to play with that later and see how to figure that out, how to work it. But anyway, all righty. Well, if y'all want to unmute for a minute, and then we'll kind of chit chat for a minute and get to know each other, because I know I was going to check and see who all we have got. I know we should be, let me look at my participants. I think we should have Olivia coming in a minute. Let's see. So I have got Avery. All right, I see Miss Avery there. And then Noah, right? All right. And then Alexis. And then Hunter. And it looks like we got Olivia and maybe Grayson. I don't know if they're going to be coming or not. But so we'll give it just a minute longer and see if anybody else joins us. I'll see if I can figure out how to. Sorry, Ann, I've got a barking dog. I'm gonna have to that gets some. We'll have a dog barking party in just a little bit. I have to put her out. I'll put her outside. I'll turn this around. Maybe that'll work better. Well, I guess we will wait. I'll give it. Let me text Olivia's mom and see if she's coming.
All right, I'll catch up with you guys later.
Okay, maybe she'll join up in just a minute. But anyway, well, so I'm so excited that this is our first time to get to meet today. And I wish it was actually in the classroom or getting to meet one-on-one, but unfortunately, this is the situation that we've got. So this is what we will go with until we can hopefully get together sometime soon. And so anyway, I'll just kind of start out telling you a little about me and a little bit about the class, and then we'll have some time to kind of get to know you guys a little bit. Usually by my older math classes, I've had students for several years, but you guys were all new together this year. So anyway, I'm Jennifer Fountain, like I said, and I'll be y'all's pre-algebra teacher, and I will be, I guess this is my 7th year with the co-op. This is my 6th year teaching math at the co-op. And so this is extremely unusual year that we're starting out this year, but we'll just go with it and do the best we can. I have a daughter that is 16 years old and a son that is 12. And so if y'all ever hear strange noises coming from my house as I'm teaching, it's probably one of my children messing with me, because they like to pick on me quite a lot. And so, so anyway, and I bet in just a minute my dog is going to bark because I hear the mailman. So she's going to get ready and bark. But anyway, so tell me, is this y'all's first time at the co-op? Has everybody been at the co-op for a little while, or is everybody new, or what? Tell me, Hunter, tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I'm new this year.
Okay. Very good. Well, welcome to the co-op. We're excited to have you. I'm glad to get to know you. What about you, Alexis? Tell us a little bit more about you.
I've been at the co-op for a long time, maybe
Okay.
about 3 years.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. What about you, Avery? I think usually if you tap somewhere on the screen, you should see the little microphone come up, and there we go. All right. So you've been at the co-op for a little while?
No, ma'am. This is my
I'm
first
sorry?
year.
This is your
This is
first
my
year?
first year.
Well, very good. Well, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Where are you coming from?
I normally just did math from like Saxon.
Okay.
We just taught it to myself.
Okay, awesome. Well, very good. Well, glad to have you. Glad to have you. All right, and then let's see. You've got your name as Butterboy. All right, tell me more about you.
I've been at the co-op. I think this is my 5th year.
Okay.
4th or 5th, one of those.
Good.
It's
Very
both.
good. Okay. Well, when we get back to the co-op, usually our classroom is going to be upstairs up on the 2nd floor. When you first go up the top of the stairs, it's the very first room on your right-hand side. And so once we get back, you'll be able to see where we are. And and anyway, well, hopefully Olivia will join us. I think it would pop up if she was waiting. But anyway, okay. Well, what I'll do is we'll go ahead and kind of get started with everything. I'm trying to figure out how, in a minute, I'm going to try to join up my computer with this, or it may just be easier for me to email it to my iPad, and then I can just pull them up that way. Y'all have to bear with me as I figure out all this technology stuff. Just when I think I have it all figured out, and then I'll try to do something and it doesn't work. Like earlier in my algebra class, I had it hooked up to my main computer. Sorry about that. Millie. Mailman has a package for me. Hang on just a minute. Millie, hush. No. Come here, let's go. Come on. Joey, come, Millie. All right, between technology and dogs, they're going to be my difficult points today. But anyway, she looked out and found somebody out walking that she wanted to bark at, and so anyway, so between all of the craziness, I tried to hook up just the computer and then bring in my iPad to do work on, and that didn't work. And then I was just trying to hook both of them up at the same time, and that messed up with the feedback. So I'm going to figure it out at some point, but it may take me a little bit of time to get it all done. But anyway, we'll just roll with it and keep doing the best we can do. But right now, what I was going to do is I was going to email myself these pages real quick, and then that way I can pull it up on the iPad. And then that way it'll kind of give us a guide. We'll go through talking about everything. Okay, let's see. Let's see. There's Olivia. Hello, how are you?
Good. Sorry, my mom sent me the wrong link. So.
Oh no. I think we were just kind of getting started, and so we were talking about, I was getting ready to pull up, I was talking about my challenges between my dog barking and technology not working and all that good stuff, but we will get through. Let's see, I want to send myself that and that. All righty, great. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll kind of go through a few of the main things about how we're going to be doing things as long as we're virtual, and what that's going to look like. And, you know, first and foremost, getting into the Zoom meetings, and then, you know, what the expectations are, and attendance and homework and all that good stuff. And then if there's anything that I don't cover that you have questions about, be sure to let me know. One of the things that sometimes I may forget to tell you something, and then there may be times that I'm going so fast and excuse me, and I've totally sped over something that you didn't understand. So please, you know, if you're not understanding something, slow me down, say, hey, wait, can you repeat that? You know, can you explain that more? I didn't understand, whatever. Feel free at any point to unmute your microphone and say whatever you need to say, especially if you have a question or whatever. My last class had 14 people, so it was a little crazy, you know, with people jumping in and there, but with us being a small class, I feel like we'll be fine. That anytime that you're not getting something, just unmute it and tell me to hold up and repeat or do whatever, and we'll figure it all out, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can get this to do right, and see if I can share my screen and pull up the information I want to pull up. So hang on just a minute. Hopefully I won't lose you. Let me pull this paper up real quick, and then all righty. So Okay, so can y'all see my screen right now? I wonder if it would work. Let's see. Let me see if I can do this real quick. Hang on just a minute. Sorry, guys. Let's see what happens if. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. Nope. Man, I thought I had turned it off. Hang on. Okay. I think I'm off now. All right. So let me see how to get this, because I want to be able to see all of y'all too with my screen. Oh. How did I have that? Actually, give me 2 seconds. I think I'm going to disconnect the audio on this one. Now maybe I figured it out. Maybe, hopefully. All right. So now what I can do is I can go, if I can figure out where I put that file. There it is, right there. Let's see if I got it. Yay, finally. All right. So what this is this is our syllabus that we'll go over and kind of talk through. And then that way, if y'all have any questions about classes, you know, like I said, feel free to unmute and just ask your questions, whatever you got. And then, all righty. Okay, so this just says that we'll be meeting on Mondays and Thursdays, 12:40 to 2:25 p.m. So what my plan is that we will we'll do our first 50 minutes and then we'll take a break just like we would at the co-op. If the those of you that have been to the co-op, y'all know that when it's time to change classes, we have the bell or the alarm, whatever you want to call it. And so we'll do our first 50 minutes, we'll take a break and then come back and finish up. There may be some days that we finish up a little bit earlier, just depending on kind of what's going on with our lessons and everything. So anyway, we'll just kind of play it by ear, but basically Mondays and Thursdays, 12:40 to 2:25, we'll meet in room 201 at the top of the stairs. And then it just kind of gives an overall description of the class and then our required items. I know some people had ordered their textbooks and they are on back order, and so they haven't come yet. So hopefully you got the email I sent with the pages that you will need until your book comes in, but it's the Purple Horizons PreAlgebra book.
Obviously, each time we meet, you need to have a pencil and some paper and a binder to be able to keep all your work together. So that way you don't have things kind of mixed around with other classes. You can kind of keep it all together. And then the next thing we'll get to are our course requirements, okay? And so the course requirements just says about bringing all your work to class each day, about turning in homework. And so it says students will have daily homework assignments that are to be recorded on the math assignment sheet that will be handed on the first day of class. Well, obviously, I'm not anywhere I can hand out a piece of paper to you, so we will get those as soon as we return to class. I will also email them to you so you can have it, and we'll talk about those things in just a minute. It says it's the responsibility of the student to write down their daily assignments. So in a minute, we're going to talk about that sheet. I will email it again. I've emailed it once, but I'll email it again this afternoon with everything that has the information on there. It just says students will be expected to come to class fully prepared, so they'll be ready to move forward with new material. Should students miss a class, they're expected to catch up as quickly as possible since we will continue to move on to new lessons. Students who miss more than 3 class periods in one grading period will not receive a grade for that grading period per Cornerstone policy. So the main thing is that it gets, like, if you've missed 3 classes, since we have double periods, that's really like missing 6 total classes. So that's a lot of information, and it's hard to keep up with. So just try to, if you know that you're going to be absent or you know you're going to miss, we'll be recording these sessions. So that way, if you need to watch it to catch up, if you're not able to tune in when we're supposed to, just have your parents let me know ahead of time. And then once you've watched the video, the main thing is that your homework is still due when it's supposed to be, unless I hear from parents. So we'll talk through that a little bit more later. All right, and now we'll get on to grades. And so it says about grades. Might have made it a little too big. Grades will be posted on the co-op's grading system. Each student has a login and password for the grading system that's available through the Cornerstone main office. So you should have, that's where you registered for classes. It's that same website. You'll be able to click on there. You'll be able to find your name and then find your classes. And that'll be where the grades are posted. This talks about we have a weighted grading scale to where tests and exams cover 75% of your overall, 70% of the overall grade. 20% will be assignments and homework accuracy questions, and then there will be a 10% homework effort grade. And so the main thing to mention about your homework effort grade, this just means that you are turning in your homework on the date that it is due, okay? So like if we have homework today, you'll have homework that is due on Thursday. So on Thursday, before we meet at 12:40, I will be looking for, I've lost, hold on a second, let me go. How can I minimize that? I lost Olivia. No? Is Olivia on here?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, there you are. I just didn't see you. Okay, perfect. Sorry, I got worried that I had lost you. All right. And then y'all can see the silly face that my son, like I said, my kids are always messing with me. Let me find, where's that paper I was on? That one. Okay. All righty. So the main thing will be about uploading your homework, okay? The way that we're going to do this is your homework will be due before the next class period. So on Thursday when we meet at 12:40, before then, you'll have a homework assignment that you need to have posted. One of them is going to be this sheet that we're going over right now. It will be the signed sheets, the signed pages saying that you and your parents have read through it. So we'll talk more about that and about posting homework in just a minute. We'll continue going on about these grades. Okay, so it does say that you have to maintain a 70% average during the first semester in order to come back and come back to the class in January. So we've got our grading scale. An A is 90 to 100, a B is 80 to 89, C is 70 to 79, D is 60 to 69, and an F is a 59 and below. Homework and daily assignments. Students will have homework assignments from each section that we cover in class. An assignment sheet will be given to students the first day of class for them to keep in their binders. I'll be sending those to you guys today. Students are to record their assignments on those sheets at the end of each class to know what's due for the next class period. It says students will be required to show all work on their assignments and tests in pencil. And it says I'll cover my expectations for work the first day of class. That's what we're talking about today, is kind of how you'll be doing your work, you'll be showing your work, you'll be posting that homework to the website. It says tests will usually cover 8 to 10 lessons of material, but it may be adjusted as needed. And we're going to look at an assignment sheet in just a little while that kind of breaks down how many sections we have for each test period. This textbook only goes by lesson, so it's like lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, and so on. It does not break it into chapters. So what I've done is I've kind of grouped different lessons together based on how I want to test that material. So sometimes it may be 5 lessons in a test, sometimes we may have 8 or 10 lessons and then a test, but I'll give you that breakdown in just a minute. We'll go over those. And then it says that students will be given an opportunity to rework missed test items to earn back points. So after we've had a test, I'll give it back, and if you've missed something, you'll have a chance to earn some points back by making corrections. And then we'll have a test at the end of each grading period that covers the material that we've done for that period. One thing to notice is that late assignments do get counted off. The co-op has a policy of counting 50% off for late assignments, so you want to make sure that your assignments are turned in on time, because if they're late, they're going to be 50% off, and if they don't get, and then if it's 2 days late, then it's a 0, and I don't want that to happen. Now, sometimes I recognize that something happens and there's something going on with your family and there's nothing you can do about it and you haven't been able to get work done. In that situation, I just need your parents to let me know that, hey, this was going on, we weren't able to get the work done, this is when we'll have it due, we'll have it to you. So we can definitely talk through things. The main thing is communicate with me, let me know what's going on, so we can work together. Absences, if you're not going to be able to tune into a Zoom, let me know ahead of time. Like I said, we're recording these, so I'll be able to send out the recording and post it, and you'll be able to watch the videos if you're absent and you cannot make it. But then the main thing is that all the homework is still due on the same date unless I hear from a parent letting me know that it will be turned in at a later time. Early dismissal, this just has to do with if you're, if we're in class or we're doing something and you've got to leave early, just have your parents let me know ahead of time that you'll be needing to leave early. This next part is talking about academic integrity. And because we do a good bit of work at home, like our tests and things like that, what this just means is that you're going to be doing your work on your own, that you're not going to be getting help from the internet or from other sources or getting somebody else to do your work or copying somebody's test, that you're going to do your own work and you're going to do the best you can. And so if there's ever any issues, I'll talk directly with you. Has it been an issue in the past? I don't expect it to be an issue. So the main thing is just making sure you're doing your own work. Phones and headphones, so in class, no phones should be out. One thing that I do say is that sometimes if we have a quiet work period, if we finished all of our work and you can, and you're working independently in the classroom and you have headphones and you want to listen to music, I'm okay with that. The main criteria is that, number one, your neighbors can't hear it. Number two, that it is appropriate, that it's not inappropriate music. But the main thing is as long as you're quietly working, I'm okay with that once I have said, hey, it's quiet work time. But if it becomes a distraction, then I may have to get rid of that. But usually it's not an issue. And that's only during the times that we have quiet work time, and which is not necessarily every single time we meet. It just depends. parent-teacher relationship. This is just stating that, you know, your parents as homeschool parents are technically, you know, in charge of your education, that I'm here to help you learn your math lessons and stuff like that, but that it's a partnership between me and the parents, and that we're doing all we can to work with you and help you to be a successful student. And so, so anyway, that's just basically what that talks about. The next section about additional support and tutoring. If you're needing help with something, you can always reach out to me and we can kind of work through things. On Mondays, I know a lot of people may not be able to, but I do have a math study hall on Mondays from 9:25 to 10:20. If you found that you were having trouble and you wanted to start coming to the study hall, basically it's just a quiet working time where I can work with students independently on things that they may be having trouble with. So, or if y'all ever need to reach out, you know, we can work through some tutoring. All right, so at the end of this paper is your first homework assignment. And so you can see where it says, please detach the acknowledgement of class policies below and have your student return it for a 10-point homework grade no later than Thursday, August 13th. So Thursday, August 13th, this Thursday, before we join in class, I'm gonna need you to, and I just realized that I messed up on my dates there. It says acknowledgement of the 2019-2020 class policies. I need to fix that. So this evening, I will re-email this with the corrected dates on it. And you guys will sign it, and then we will upload this. Now, have any of you had experience uploading homework assignments on the homework on the website? So most of you have not done that, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will be emailing also. There's an email that I will send that has a file. Actually, let me try to pull it up on here real quick. Let's see if I can get that. Let me go back. Let me find the. Oh, that's not what I want. Where did they go? Well, I was looking for that little video. Where did it go? Where is that? Oh, there we go.
Hello, this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to upload homework as a Cornerstone student or parent. First thing you want to do is open Safari, click on New Window, and you're going to type in the search bar Cornerstone Cooperative. Hit Enter, and then navigate to this link here. It'll say homeschool-life.com. Click on the Cornerstone Cooperative link.
Okay, I think I paused it real quick. I'm going to pause it as we go to kind of talk through it. So basically, you can just Google Cornerstone Cooperative. You can do Cornerstone Cooperative Helena, whatever, and you can see where that link is going to come up. Then you're going to click on that link, and it will bring up the Helena page.
And then next, you're going to want to navigate to the login. Just going to go full screen here. Click Login. Now type in your username and password. This will be the parent's login.
Okay, so now in that blue box at the very top on the right-hand corner, you can see where it says Login. So this is what the Cornerstone page looks like. At the top right corner, it says login, and there your parents should have a username and password. So you'll plug those in and then click login.
Information. Next, click on Secure Login. This takes you to the main dashboard. In order to change your dashboard view, you need to go down to the drop-down menu, switch dashboard view. You can view it as a parent, an instructor, or any one of the children that are currently enrolled in Cornerstone Cooperative. In this case, I'm going to click on my name, and this way.
Okay, so what he was talking about, and so you know that that's Thomas Wolfe talking. He made this video for us, and so you can see where at the top where it says the dashboard, you can switch your dashboard view. So once you're here, what you're looking for is the class. So like in our case, you'd be looking for your listing for your pre-algebra class. Okay, so what he's saying is he's finding the course to pull it up.
I'm going to look at my instructors and my classes. I'm going to find the class that I need to navigate to so that I can then turn in my homework. Okay, I'm on the physics page. I'm going to scroll down and look at this page that says assignments. As you can see, I have 2 assignments due, Module 10 Lab and Module 10 Practice and Review. If you hover your cursor over the assignment name, you can click on it and then enter a homework title. In this case, I'm going to put Lab 10.2. And then I'm going to choose a file on my computer to upload. In this case, I put my file on the desktop. So now I know that it's there. I'm going to go back here and click Choose File. You're going to see that on my desktop, I have my homework file. Now before you hit choose, make sure that your file is in a PDF format. This format works the best with the Cornerstone Co-op's website. Now simply hit choose, and your file will be placed in the upload section. Now just hit add upload. This may take a minute depending on internet speed. Alright, so now we need to scroll down and make sure that our file was uploaded. You can see that under uploads, under module 10, you can see that my file was successfully added and that its status is ungraded.
Okay, so real quick, just to kind of go over those things. So what he says, once he got to the class page, he scrolled down and went to find assignments. So then on that page, he found where the assignments were listed. When he put his cursor over the name of the assignment that he was looking for or clicked on it, then it brought up that page that allowed him to give the homework a title, to give it a name, and to be able to upload it. Now, one of the things he mentioned is that it needs to be in PDF file. Okay, so when you're putting something into a PDF, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You may have something that you already use to convert your papers to PDF. I had emailed out the copy of the textbook pages. What I use is an app on my phone called Tiny Scanner. Now, you may have something that already converts, and that's great. Your parents may do it for you, whatever. I have found that this little scanner app on my phone works great because all I've got to do is snap a picture of it, and then it turns it into a PDF, and then I can email it out or I can upload it or do whatever I need to do with it. So okay, Office Lens, good. So whatever you need to use to be able to turn something into a PDF is great. And then so then you'll just upload that file. Okay. So our homework policies will be your first thing to kind of play with that, to practice with it. If you have trouble with it, please let me know, okay? If you're struggling with it and you can't figure it out, please let me know. I will email out this video again in our follow-up email today to kind of watch it. Now, Thomas did things where he put things on his desktop and pulled it in that way and everything. Everybody has different ways of using that, and this is, I'm assuming, a MacBook that he was using since he had Safari and stuff like that. So you may be working on a PC and not a Mac, so it may be a little bit different as far as saving your things on the computer and stuff like that. So anyway, but if you have any trouble trying to figure it out, please let me know. But this is kind of our test run on how to get your homework uploaded. Okay. Any questions about that so far? Okay, so so we'll check on that, Hunter. I'll look and see. I think y'all had emailed it to me, and so what I may do is we'll get you to practice with uploading it, just so you have practice posting your homework assignments on that sheet. I know that I've already gotten it from you, but then that way it'll kind of give you a little bit of practice. All righty. So the next thing I want to do is oh, perfect. You've already uploaded it. That's great. So I will take a look at that. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to, let's see, close that out. Now, the next thing I want to look at is our math lessons. Okay, so like I said, one of the things that I've done is I have taken each of our lessons and kind of broken it down. And so this kind of has a rough idea of what dates things will be taught, okay? Now notice the first thing, the left-hand column says unit number. So basically unit 1 is going to cover lessons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we'll have a test on those 7 lessons, okay? It tells me the topic name and then when those lessons are to be taught, okay? So you can see that our goal today is to cover 3 lessons. One of the things I need to do is I need to make sure, so we've got about 9 minutes before our break. I'm gonna try to be real careful to remember our break times. Yeah, 9 minutes. Okay, so so you can see that when we come back after our break, we'll be getting down to business with our work. Hopefully we'll have covered kind of some of our intro stuff and we'll be ready to do some stuff. So you can see it says that's the date that I'm planning on teaching that topic. And then you can come over and then in the column where it says specific assignments, and then it says textbook and or packet. Okay, so this is where you would write your homework down. So with lesson 1, when you get a homework assignment, then you would write what page your homework corresponds with lesson 1 in that blank, and then the due date on the right hand side, that's the date that it's due, and so you would be putting in your homework for Thursday. Okay, so we'll kind of practice with that. Like I said, and my plan was to print this out on heavy cardstock for you to have it to keep in your binder, and I will still do that once we get back to, once we actually get in the classroom. I'll bring y'all copies of these, but for now it'll just give you something to put in your notebook so you can keep up with your homework assignments. Okay, so any questions about this sheet? All righty. And so, like I said, this also kind of gives you an idea that if you see that we're starting on section 6, you know that we're getting close to a test. And then that way, and we'll kind of talk, what we'll do is we'll always do reviews before tests. We will, you know, practice and get ready for our test, and then the test will be sent home, and then it will come back. There may be a time that we do a test in class toward the end of each grading period, just to kind of give you some practice working on things in a different environment. We'll just kind of play it by ear. Usually I don't do that much in pre-algebra, but we'll kind of play it by ear and see what we decide to do this year, because as of now, not much of anything stays the same. So we'll figure all that out. All righty, so now the next thing I want to do is I will go ahead and pull up our text pages. Okay, so like I was saying earlier about, you know, doing the PDF thing, like I said, this was just what I used with my little scanner app, is I just took the picture and brought it in. When we get back from our break, I'll be pulling this up on what I'm going to be using a program called Notability that will help us to take notes. And one of the things I want to mention about taking notes in math class, I have found over the years, whether it was as a student or a teacher teacher that taking notes, while it's not always fun and it's not always what we want to do, it helps us to remember information, okay? So taking notes, there's something about you actually writing out the notes and just the process between the brain and the hand and taking those notes that helps you to recall information better than if you just read it off of a piece of paper, okay? So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing, and actually in a little bit we're going to draw a diagram of this information that we're going to be talking about that hopefully will put it in a better format for you to be able to memorize and recall the information and organize it a little bit better in your brain. The main thing about taking notes is, like I said, I know it's not fun. I know it's not something that everybody wants to do, but the more, if you practice it now, it's going to become easier as you go through school. It's also going to help you to learn to study better, and it's going to help you when you get into those higher level classes. So even though, you know, right now we're just dealing with pre-algebra, it's going to help you starting to take notes now will help you with next year's algebra class. And then when you move on to geometry and things like that, it'll help you kind of start to learn how to organize the information, how to lay it out on paper, and it'll give you a better chance of recalling the information when you start to study and get ready for a test. And so that's why I strongly encourage note taking. I had already planned on things looking a little bit differently this year for note taking. Usually I write a ton of notes on the board in the classroom, but I also knew we were going to be doing a lot of virtual stuff this year. So my plan is to use Notability. I will and then I will email those notes out to you guys afterwards, so you've got them to look at. Now that's not, instead of you writing the notes, I still want you to write the notes because it is going to help you to memorize. I know that when I was in school, or think about spelling words. Think about if in the very beginning, maybe when you were studying spelling words, did you ever do activities where you wrote them several times in a row? Maybe you wrote the words 3 times each or whatever. And so the reason that we do that with spelling words is because it helps us with recall. It helps us to memorize. It helps us to understand, you know, okay, this is what comes next kind of stuff. So there's just something about writing things out and the connection between the brain and remembering information. So that's why I really, really, really strongly encourage note taking. And so hopefully we'll be good. And like I said, I'm going to be kind of writing out the notes for you to kind of follow, to be able to take your own notes to help you when it comes time to study for our tests. Okay. So what I'll do is we'll go ahead and we can go ahead and take a let's see, it's like 1:28, so we've got just a couple of extra minutes. Let's come back at 1:35. Okay, so that gives you about 7 minutes to go grab a snack, a drink, go to the restroom, whatever you need to do just to take a little break, stretch your legs, and then when we get back in just a minute, we'll get going on our lessons, okay? Also, during this time, if you want to unmute and ask questions or whatever, please feel free to do that. All right, is everybody back? Do I have Olivia and Noah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okie doke. Is Olivia
Yeah, I'm
back?
here. I'm
All
here.
right, perfect. Well, we'll go ahead and get started then. Any questions that you guys have before we get started? Anything that I haven't covered? Anything that I went too quickly through? Is everybody feeling okay? The main thing that I want to tell you though is as we're working through this stuff, math is not and was not my favorite subject growing up. Math was something I always struggled with and always felt like I could not do it. I always thought that math was magic. I had an older sister that was very good at math and science stuff. So it was the kind of thing where I always told myself, well, gosh, I just can't do it. I always thought that she just, you know, she just had a great way of figuring it out and I just didn't get it. So I didn't really try. And so it was one of those things that it wasn't actually until I was later and as an adult, I was working at a tutoring center. I was a director of education and I was working with some students, and my job was to bring in the tutors to work with students. And if somebody was late one day or something was going on, I would sit with the students until the tutor got there. So always my biggest fear was when any of our high math tutors were either couldn't get there or something happened. And there was one day that one of our tutors got sick. And so I ended up having to work with a high math student. And of course I was panicked because I'd always told myself, I cannot do this. I cannot do it. I cannot do it. So anyway, I ended up sitting down and working with a student. And I looked at it and I looked at their textbook and I went through it and I was like, wait a minute, I can do this. Why did I think that I couldn't do it? And I realized that for so many years, I just put my mindset, or I kept myself from letting myself get it. By telling myself I could not do it, I could not do it. But when I actually looked at it and realized it's just steps in a process, and it's learning those steps, it's learning the definitions, it's learning the concepts, I realized that I had really kind of shortchanged myself and told myself that I couldn't do something that I really probably could have done if I would have just tried. And so I know that math can be very scary. I know that math can be very, very overwhelming. And so my goal for you guys is just to recognize that this is just math. It is not something that is going to beat you. It is something that you can overcome and that you can do whether you feel like you're a good math student or not. So my goal is to help you feel more confident working with math this year, and just recognizing that all it is learning the information and giving giving yourself a chance to work with it and not shutting it down so fast. So that's just kind of a little about, so there will be things that, and that's why I come up with different little tricks and things like that to help you remember things. That's why I really like the whole note-taking thing, because to me, it's just going to help you to become a more confident math student. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start. Again, as we're going through things, if you're not understanding something, if I'm moving too fast, just unmute and yell out your question or tell me to slow down. Okay, so we're going to be on page 3 in our textbook. And this is dealing with number terminology. So basically, we're just learning about different groups of numbers. So if you look at the first one, it says natural numbers are counting numbers. Think about if you've ever been around a little toddler lately. I know last week when we were at the beach, my niece's little boy, he is 2 and he goes around counting everything. It's 1, 2, 3. Now sometimes it's not always in order, or sometimes it's messed up, or sometimes he just starts with 8, 9, 10. You never know where he's going to start, but he's using those counting numbers. He's using what we call natural numbers. So these are the numbers that we all learned when we were little bitty. These were the first numbers that we learned to count. Or first time that we really started associating numbers with things. The next type of numbers are called whole numbers. So at some point when you were younger, you learned that, hey, the numbers actually don't start with 1, 2, 3. There's a 0 in front of 1. And so that's what our whole numbers are. Whole numbers are going to be the natural numbers or the counting numbers, but we've added 0 to that group of numbers. Okay, so we've got natural numbers where it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that dot, 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 we call those ellipses. And that just means it keeps on going indefinitely. Okay, and then whole numbers are where we have those natural numbers, but we've added 0 to the front of them. Now the next one, integers. One of the things I want to tell you is there's going to be a lot of funny words in math, okay? And so what I want you to do is what I'm going to try to do each time is to give you kind of a picture that you can form in your head to kind of help you understand what these words mean. So one of the first things I want to do is with integers, and I don't know where you want to write it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, let me get my color up. I will use this blue right here. So what I'm going to do is I am drawing a number line, and actually let me make it a little bit skinnier. There's my undo right there. All right. So what I want to do is I am going to go ahead and draw, well, a number line. We know that with a number line, I have 0 in the middle. Then I'd have 1, 2, 3, and then this side I'd have -1, -2, -3. So basically what I want you, when we hear the word integers, I want you to picture a number line, okay? And my writing on this is not going to be that great. So just know, like when I said those are those are negative numbers. Let's see if I can write them a little bit better. My negative signs, they look a little messed up, and that 3 looks bad. Let's see if we can draw it a little bit clearer. Okay. All right. So when you hear the word integers, I want you to picture a number line. Okay. So funny sounding word, but all it means is number line. So immediately draw that picture in your head of integers. Now the next word is rational numbers. Again, this is just a funny word, nothing to be overwhelmed with. But basically it says rational numbers are numbers that can be written as a fraction. So think about when we have a fraction, we've got a numerator and a denominator, okay, just like 1/2, 4/3, or 7/1. Those are going to be fractions that we typically see. Now 10½, we could write that as 10 1/2. So that can be written as a whole number and a fraction. So now we see that 10^5, a decimal, can be written as a fraction. So, so what I want you to make a note here is with rational numbers, we're going to make a note that this says includes fractions. Make this a little bit bigger. And, whoop, not yet. Fractions and decimals that either terminate, and terminate just means that they come to an end, terminate, or repeat. I'm working on an iPad mini, and so I've got to get a bigger iPad, so sorry about the, hopefully when I get my bigger iPad, it'll be easier to get these notes, or repeat. Okay, so again, we added to this includes fractions and decimals that either terminate or repeat. And we said the word terminate means end. So like 10.5, that comes to an end. That is a terminating decimal. A repeating decimal, we'll go ahead and give an example of that, would be that would be like if I had a decimal that was 2.6565 ... Oh, man. Okay, so you can see that those 6 5s are repeating. That's a repeating decimal, is when you would see something repeating. We could also see that as 2.65 with that line over the top of it to indicate a repeating decimal, okay? So if it terminates, which means it ends, or if it repeats, then that's going to be a rational number, okay? So when we think of fraction and when we think of rational numbers, we're thinking fractions, terminating, repeating decimals, okay? Now our next one is irrational numbers. So the word irrational and rational are going to be opposites. So if a number is rational, it cannot be irrational. And if it's irrational, it cannot be rational. Okay, it has to be one or the other. And so these are going to be numbers that cannot be written as a fraction. And they are going to be decimals that do not terminate or repeat. Okay, so we said these are numbers that cannot be written as a fraction, and that's part of our little note right here. And then I'm going to also put also includes, yeah, like the square root of 1, good. Also includes there we go. Non-terminating non-repeating decimals. Okay, so in that category, cannot be written as a fraction, non-repeating, non-terminating decimals. And then we have real numbers, that includes everything in this category. Okay, so one of the things I want to do real quick is I'm going to go to a blank piece of paper and I'm going to draw a diagram. And on this diagram, I'm going to have a box. We're going to talk about imaginary numbers in a minute. We are not going to do imaginary numbers. Actually, let me move my box down a little bit. Okay, so go ahead and on a piece of paper, draw you a box. And inside this box, these are going to be real numbers. Okay. So now the other part of that, there may be a time when you're in higher math and you deal with imaginary numbers. It will not be this year. And if you have me for Algebra 1 or geometry in the coming years, we will not talk about them then either. I do not deal with imaginary numbers. We're just going to be dealing with real numbers. Okay. So real numbers can be broken into 2 groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to make one side a little bit bigger than the other. But these 2 groups, I'm going to break them into. These are going to be rational numbers. And then irrational. Okay, so like I said, all of these real numbers includes all of them, But when I look at my set of real numbers, I can divide them into either rational or irrational. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a big circle inside that one box on the left-hand side. And these are my integers. And inside that circle, I'm going to draw a circle. And these are my whole numbers. And then inside that circle, these are going to be, I'm just going to put an N there for natural numbers. So you can see how it kind of, natural numbers can get larger by adding 0 and it becomes whole numbers. Whole numbers can become a bigger group by adding negative numbers, and those are called integers. And natural numbers, whole numbers, integers are all part of, they're all rational numbers, which are all real numbers. But then you've got irrational numbers on the other side. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to look, and we said, I guess that's, we'll just, so does this kind of help everybody see the two different types of numbers within the real number group? That it starts out with natural numbers as my smallest group, add 0, it is whole numbers, add negatives, and it becomes integers. And then if we can write it as a fraction, it's considered a rational number. Okay, is everybody good with that? So what I want to do is look at, good, let's go ahead and look back on this page, and let's look at this little box here. And it says identify each number as natural, whole, integer, rational, irrational, or real. Some numbers may have more than one answer. So let's look at the number 3. Okay, the number 3. Is it a natural number? Yeah, it is a natural number. So I'm going to put an X in that box. Or actually, I'll do a check mark. How about that? Make it a little bit bigger. So we'll put a check mark. Is the number 3 also a whole number? Yeah. Is it an integer? Would it be a number that would be on the number line? Yeah. Okay. Now think about the number 3. How can I turn that into a fraction? If anybody has an idea, you can unmute and tell me. How can I make any number a fraction?
3/1.
Yeah.
Over 1, yeah. So 3/1 is equal to 3, right? So I can write it as a fraction. So it is rational. Remember, we said that if a number is rational, it cannot be irrational. So I know, since I've checked off that it's rational, I know it is not irrational, and we know that it is a real number. Okay. My copy didn't come out so well, but that is on here, this is a -8. So let me make that a little bit darker in your textbook. You can probably see it better. But that's a -8. Excuse me. See if I can. Okay. So let's think about that. When you were a toddler and you were running around counting for everybody, did you count and use a -8? No. So that's not a natural number. Is it going to be a whole number? Nope, because whole numbers are just 0 and the natural numbers. What about an integer? Positives and negatives on a number line, absolutely. So it is an integer. Could I write -8 as a fraction? Think about it. If I had -8, I could put it over 1, couldn't I? -8/1 is equal to -8. So I can make it a fraction, so it is rational. And so since I know it is rational, it is not irrational. But then it is going to be a real number. Okay. Now, one of the things I want to tell you, dealing with square roots or dealing with radicals, we're going to learn more about those in just a little bit. Don't be too freaked out about them. I know a lot of times when we see weird symbols in math, we go, ah, you know, it's something scary and it's something awful. It's not going to be a big deal. We're going to work through them. But the main thing to know right now, the square root of 3, we are going to go ahead and learn that, you know, when you were counting, you did not count the square root of 3. That is not, so it's not a natural number, it's not a whole number, it's not an integer because it's not on the number line. Now, what did we say that like an imperfect square is going to be what kind of number? Very good, it's an irrational number, good job. But is it still a real number? All of these are going to be real numbers. So I'll go ahead and tell you that all these are going to be checked off for real numbers. Okay, so the square root of 3 is going to be irrational and real. All right, let's look at 0. There's only going to be 2 of these that 0 is not checked off for. There's only going to be 2 categories that we do not check for 0. Look at those and think and see if you can figure out. Is 0 a natural number? Nope. So there's one of them. We know it's a whole number. We know it's an integer because it's on the number line. Now think about writing 0 as a fraction. What is 0 over 1? What is 0 divided by 1? 0, yeah. Now one thing to note here, I can divide into 0. So I can have 0 divided by 1, but I could not do 1 divided by 0. This is considered undefined. Okay, I cannot divide by 0. So just know that division by 0 cannot be done. But I can put it as a fraction, so it is rational. So that tells me it is not irrational and it is real. Any questions about 0? All right, what about 2 1/3? 2 1/3, there's only going to be 2 check marks for 2 1/3. Which ones do you think that would be? We know it's a fraction, so we know it can be expressed as a fraction. So which of those would tell me which one can be a fraction? Rational or irrational? Very good. So we would check, so rational, good. So we know we're going to have rational and real. What about for 5, 6? What are the 2 that we're going to be checking for rational and real? I just totally told y'all. Instead of saying what are the 2 we're going to check for 5, 6, I said, my bad. So I just told you rational and real. All right, now we are to the symbol pi. When we get a little bit further along in different math classes, we will be using the symbol pi to represent a number. The number that that symbol represents is a number that does not repeat and it does not terminate and it goes on and on and on forever. There is no way you could ever write that number in its entirety, okay, because it never ends. And so that's the reason we use the symbol pi, because we needed a finite something that we could write to represent what that number is. So exactly, it is an infinite number. And so pi is a non-terminating, non-repeating decimal. So we know that it is going to be irrational because that's our definition of non-repeating, non-terminating is an irrational number, but it is still is part of the set of real numbers. Okay. And we'll talk more about pi later on. Usually whenever we're doing calculations, now this textbook, a lot of times it has you just use pi as just using the symbol. There are some textbooks that it'll say multiply by 3.14. So the main thing is just to read the directions. If it says to use 3.14 for pi, then you'll use it. If it doesn't say it, then you just leave it as the symbol. And we'll talk more about that later, okay? All right, finally, 6.2, 6.2. This is a terminating decimal, Okay, terminating decimals. So this is, we're only going to have 2 numbers checked for this one. 2 categories checked. So what will those 2 categories be? Real is one of them, good. And then what's the other one going to be? Rational, good. It is a rational number because we said those terminating. So what I want to do real quick is let's go back to this page. Let's go ahead and make a little list for just a minute. I want to go ahead and write natural numbers. We said we call those counting numbers. Then our whole numbers, we said were counting numbers and 0. So natural numbers, whole numbers. The next will be integers. And these are going to be positive and negative whole numbers. I'm going to put in parentheses, think number line. Okay, so now, what did I do? Let's make this. Okay, so we've looked at natural numbers, whole numbers, integers. So now we're going to look at rational numbers. And we said these are fractions and decimals that repeat or terminate. Rational numbers are fractions or decimals that repeat or terminate. Then our irrational numbers are non goodness gracious, my hand keeps touching the screen and it keeps messing me up. Non-repeating, remove that. Terminating decimals, as well as imperfect squares. And what I mean by imperfect squares, the example that we looked at was the square root of 3. Okay, because that cannot be reduced. Later on, we're going to be talking about square roots, and we're going to be talking about how to be able to simplify them. But if they have anything left under the radical sign and it cannot be simplified, then it's considered an imperfect square. And imperfect squares are examples of irrational numbers. Okay? So now we've kind of taken these lists, and then we have the set of real numbers include natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. So real numbers include all of these that we've talked about. Natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. Any questions about that? Yes, so like with square roots, like if I were to have the square root of 4, then the way, and like I said, we'll talk about this more later, but basically what I can do is I can break the number 4 into prime factors. And my prime factors would be 2 times 2. And so what I'm looking at is how many I would have to have 2 of those numbers under the radical sign to pull out a whole number 2. So since the square root of 4 is the whole number 2, I'm able to simplify that. So that is actually going to be a natural number and a whole number and an integer and things like that, because it can be simplified. But if it's something that cannot be simplified and cannot be taken out from under the radical, then it stays as an irrational number. Okay? So any questions about those? All righty, let's go ahead and move on down to, or let's go back to our page. And here it talks about a couple of properties of addition. Okay, the first one is the associative property of addition. Okay, the associative property of addition, and it says you can group the add-ins in different ways and still get the same sum. What I want you to do is circle the word group, okay? Because when we talk about the associative property, we're talking about the grouping of numbers. So you can see in the first one, they've grouped 2 plus 3 together in parentheses. And the second one, they grouped together 1 plus 2. I'm still adding 1, 2, and 3, so it doesn't matter. I can add the 2 and 3, and then I would have 1 plus 5 equals 6, or I can add the 1 and 2 and get 3 and have 3 plus 3 equals 6. So my grouping does not change my solution, okay? So when you think about the word associative, I want you to think about grouping, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to look, now I want to come over here to look at the commutative property of addition. Okay, so now the commutative property of addition says you can change the order of the add-ins and still get the same sum. So here I want you to circle the word order. Okay, associative is grouping, commutative is order. What this is telling me is it doesn't matter what order I add them in. I can do 2 plus 3 is 5, or I can flip-flop them and say 3 plus 2 is 5. The order can change, but my sum is still going to be the same, okay? So the main difference between these two, associative is grouping, commutative is order. And then we have the identity property of addition. And this just says that I can add 0 to any number, and it doesn't change the value of that number. That any number plus 0 is that number. Okay, so identity property of addition, you can just circle the word 0 here, because I can add 0 to any number and it's going to be that number. Okay. So these are some properties that we're going to talk about throughout the year, and even when we move into algebra next year, we'll be talking about these different properties of addition. Later on, we'll be talking about properties of multiplication and things like that. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is I want you to go ahead and I want you to make a note here that these activities, this is going to be homework due 8/13. Okay, so this will give you a chance to practice with these natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational, irrational, and real. So on the finish, so you'll finish this page as part of homework. Then what I want you to do is go ahead and turn over to page 4. Page 4 is just some practice with adding and subtracting multi-digit numbers. Okay, I am going to circle.
Real quick. Yeah,
Do what?
tried to fill in my schedule. Is that good? Like I just said, like what pages?
Yeah, that's great. If you've already got that printed out, now that's just going to go along with that. Yeah, that one lesson. So, so as of right now, hold on just a minute, and I'll flip back to that. So here, only these middle 2 rows are going to be for homework. Okay, so we'll do one column of addition and one column of subtraction. This is just practicing. All righty, now what we're going to do is go ahead and move on to page 5, rounding and estimation. More than likely, this is a skill that you have worked with plenty. This is probably just a good bit of review, and it just says that rounding is a method of approximating a given number. This is where we look to the digit to the right, look at the digit to the immediate right of the place value you want to round to. And if it's a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, they say round down, but that just means you're going to keep the number the same or whatever and make everything else zeros, and then you round up if it's a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. Okay, everybody remember about rounding, that you look at the place value, look at his neighbor to the right hand side. If it's a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, keep it the same. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, round it up. Okay, so here it says, you know, what you round to depends on which place value you're choosing. Okay, now estimation is a method of quickly arriving at an approximate answer. So the main thing here, we have to round a number to be able to estimate. Alexis, do you have a question? Okay, I didn't know if you were raising your hand. You don't have to. I was just going to say, don't raise your hand, just unmute and ask your question if you have a question. Okay, so what we have to do is estimation is where we're trying to come to a quick answer. So that means I have to round a number before I actually do the math to estimate. So it says estimation is useful when an exact answer is not needed. To estimate an answer, round each term, and then perform the required mathematical operation. So it says to estimate the sum of 5,232 plus 3,853, round each to the nearest thousand and add. So it tells you what place value to round to. So in this situation, if I'm rounding to my nearest thousand, my 5 is in the thousands place. His neighbor is a 2. So I know that he rounds, So I know it's going to round to 5,000. 3,853. 3 is in the thousands place. I look at the neighbor number and it's an 8. So that 8 tells me I'm going to have to round my 3 to a 4. So now I've got 5,000 plus 4,000 equals 9,000. So what I had to do is look to see, okay, what place value is it telling me to round to? Round first, then estimate to find my answer. Is everybody okay with that? Any questions on that? So that would be for adding or subtracting. When it says to estimate the product, product tells me I'm dealing with multiplication. So it says estimate the product of 19 times 21, and it says round each to the nearest 10 and multiply. Okay. So 19 would round to 20. And 21 would also round to 20. So then 20 times 20 is 400. One thing to mention, when you're multiplying numbers with zeros like that, I can just multiply 2 times 2 and get 4. And then notice I've got 1 0, 2 zeros. So that tells me how many zeros to go afterward. Okay. All right, so let's look at this over here in classwork. It says to estimate the sum. I have 172 plus 329. They did not tell us, they didn't tell us what place value to go to. So what I want you to do is if they have not told you the place value, go ahead and round to whatever the largest place is. So since we're dealing with hundreds here, we're going to round to the hundreds, okay? So what would I round the number 172 to? If I was rounding to the nearest 100, what would I round to?
200.
Good. So 172 is going to become 200. What about 329? What would it become? 300. Good. So then 300 plus 200 is 500. Okay. 416. What would we round 416 to? 400. 792. What would we round that to? 800. And 400 plus 800. 4 plus 8 is 12. So 1200. And then finally, the last one, we're dealing with thousands, so we'll round to the nearest 1,000. So 6,017, we'll just round to 6,000. Plus, what about 2,949? We would want to round that one to 3,000. So 6,000 plus 3,000 is 9,000. Any questions on estimating and rounding? Everybody feel pretty comfortable with that? Again, it's the kind of thing where if you have questions and you're not comfortable asking in our group format, always as I'm shutting down the meetings at the end of the day, if I'm shutting down and you have a question and you want to hang around for a minute and ask me a question, please feel free to do that. Okay, so as we're leaving today, if you have a question about something, you can hang out for a minute and ask me a question, or you can always text me or email me, whatever. All right, so that was estimating the sums. Now we're going to estimate the products, okay? So what would 41, what would we round 41 to? We're going to make it 40, good. And what would 39 become? That one's going to be 40 also, isn't it? So like I said a moment ago, when we looked at, I can multiply 4 times 4. So I've got 4 times 4 is 16. And then I've got 2 zeros on the end. So I can add my 2 zeros. That only works when I'm multiplying, okay? It does not work when I'm adding. So when I'm multiplying, I multiply the first 2 numbers and then add the number of zeros. What would 103 become? Just going to be 100. And 298 is going to be what? 300. So we would multiply the 1 times 3 is 3. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. Oh my goodness. So we had our 3, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So I can write my zeros down, and then I can go back and put my comma in. Okay. 699 is going to become what? 700. So we would round that one to the hundreds place. Now we'll need to round 11 to the tens place. So it becomes 10. Again, 7 times 1 is 7. And then I've got 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3, and then I can put my comma in. Okay. All righty. So what we will do is we will have activities 2 and 3 for homework. So I'm going to circle 2 and 3 for homework. And then go ahead and turn over to page 6 for a minute. And what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about all of this homework, and then we're going to we'll make a complete list so everybody has everything down. Okay. This is just some review here for multiplying and dividing, doing multi-digit division and multiplication. Okay. So what we will do is I want you just to circle again this middle column, and this will be homework. Okay, on that page. We're already doing practice with identifying natural whole, integer, rational, so we do not have to do 4. So if you want to mark that out, you can. You do not have to do that. So let's go through and make a complete list of everything that we have for homework. Okay, we'll make sure we've got it all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add another page right here. And we will put homework due 8/13. So the first thing was our signed class policies. We are not going to get to lesson 3 today because we've only got about 5 minutes, actually 2 minutes left in class. And so, like I said, the sheet that I gave you is an outline or a plan of what will get covered. Since we took the whole first part of class kind of doing intro stuff, we didn't quite get as far, but that's okay. You never have to do more homework than, you know, don't just go by what I tell you for the homework assignments. And I'm sorry, my handwriting is so terrible on this thing. Okay, so the first thing we have is our signed class policies. Okay, so then the next thing we have is text page 3, and that's activities 2. Okay, so usually as we're doing these things, notice that each section is either labeled classwork or activities, and then the activities are numbered. Okay, so on page 3, we'll do activities 2, which is that box. And then on text page 4, we have the middle rows of addition and subtraction. That's just for practice to get our brains working again on addition and subtraction. Then we're going to have page 5, activities 2 and 3. And then page 6, we said the middle rows of multiplication and division. I know it seems like a lot, but once you get going on it, I think you'll find that it's not really. Probably what's going to take you the longest out of all of this is going to be that multiplication and division. Okay, probably you're going to fly right through those activities 2 on page 3, the addition and subtraction on page 4, activities 2 and 3 on page 5. Probably won't give you any trouble whatsoever, but the multiplication and division are probably going to be the things that take you the most time. Now, one of the things to remember is on those multiplication and division problems, I want to be able to see all your work neatly, step by step, written out, okay? If y'all have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to let me know. I will be sending you guys a wrap-up email that has everything, the policies and all that stuff attached to it again, just in case you can't find it, and then kind of recapping our day today. So anyway, you guys have done such a great job staying attentive, and I've been able to see that you guys are working and taking notes, and I'm so excited to see that. But please just, let me know anything that y'all have questions about, okay? Any questions or anything to, before we go today? Is everybody good? All right. Well, like I said, not my ideal way of starting off a new school year, but we'll do the best we can, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll be able to kind of be back together and be in the regular classroom. Oh, sweet puppy came to math. All right. Well, if y'all don't have anything else, I will get ready and let y'all go. Y'all just have a great afternoon, and I will see you guys on Thursday. All right. If you have questions before then, let me know. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.